Hello, and thanks for watching BSG Cast. He's Matt, I'm Nat, and let's get started.
All right, so we just got back from Fan Expo 2007 in Toronto.
Which was awesome. There was a lot to see and do, and more importantly, we learned a lot of new stuff about Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, totally, because it's a drought right now, guys. We're in the middle of like 8 months of no BSG.
And it's been painful.
Totally. But you may not know it, there are Battlestar Galactica stories happening out there, and I'm actually not talking about Stiff Jimmy. I'm talking about Grag Pak. He is the writer on the Battlestar Galactica comic book series.
Which is pretty cool, actually. I won't get into too many details right now because he will tell you, but it's based on the same characters and the same storyline that we've been getting on television. So this is going to be really cool. It answers some questions that we have not been hearing about. So let's take a look at what he has to say. So I'm here with Grag Pak at Fan Expo, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about your BSG comic series that you've been working on. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so it is the Battlestar Galactica tie-in series. It ties into the new Battlestar Galactica, and it is published by Dynamite, and we just finished a 12-issue run, 13 issues if you count the special promotional number 0 issue, and it's a little epic story that takes place in the middle of the second season, so it fits into the continuity of the show.
So it is canon.
Well, I won't say it's canon because it remains to be seen, whether the big show will do anything with it. But it is entirely consistent. It is as far as I'm concerned, it's canon. It all was vetted by the folks at Universal, and they made we all made sure that it fit into everything and that there's no contradictions and all of that. And I was just incredibly excited and just had a huge amount of fun working with this material because I love the show. And
so all the familiar characters.
Yeah, exactly. I was totally hooked on the show, and I got the chance to work on the book and jumped at it and sunk my little teeth into it and didn't let go. And basically, at the time I started working on it, I think about the first season had just finished, and I watched and rewatched that first season, and I came up with a story that dealt with the threads, like the emotional stories that I found the most compelling and the characters I found the most compelling, and also that delved into the kind of sci-fi kind of crazy questions about the Cylons that I thought were the most compelling. And so I put this whole thing together as this big 12-issue epic, and we sent it over to Universal, and they said, cool, go for it, which was nuts. I mean, the big challenge was to find out where it fit into the continuity of the show, because the scenario that was left at the time I was working on it had changed by the time we were ready to start writing. But there was a niche, after the return from Kobol and before the arrival of the Pegasus. For all you detailed BSG fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this story fits right into that niche, and it carries through on this major conflicts between Kara and Adama over the death of Zach.
Right.
And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And because when I was watching the show, those scenes that dealt with Zach and the guilt that these various characters feel about that and how it affects their own relationships, how much they love each other in the wake of his passing, at the same time how betrayed they feel by each other in certain ways. Like, that is just incredibly strong material.
For sure, yeah.
And
the show hasn't really given you that experience.
Well, and we were lucky because I'm sure that is something that they'll delve into at some. Well, I have no idea what they're going to delve into exactly. They can do anything at all. But it was great. It was great for us because that was an open place that we could explore. And I won't. I'm trying to think how much can I spoil because yeah, exactly. But all I'll say is that Zach Adama plays a role in this story, and all of those emotional conflicts and struggles come to the forefront. And at the same time, the story is delving into what it is to be a Cylon in ways that you haven't seen before. And it was I was very excited. I'm pretty proud of it. And go pick it up. The first trade actually has just been released. It collects the first 4 issues. Also, all of the issues are out. It actually collects the first 5 issues if you count the number 0 issue. And so yeah, check it out.
Well, you said Universal's cool with it. What does Ronald D think of it? Do you know?
I got a chance to talk to him while we were developing, and he is like, he's this gentle genius. I had this conversation with him, and I was all nervous because it's like he created this amazing thing. It's like, here I am, just some dude. I had no idea how he would feel about it. But I think he's one of these folks who I had a brief conversation with him, but he seemed his whole attitude is what if you think about it, what you would expect from somebody who is so successful at creative work, in that he's open to ideas, he is excited about ideas and willing to consider things and go down paths, and he asks just the right questions to kind of put us in the right place to do the story. So I mean, he had a few questions and a few suggestions, and they were just right on target, and they cut us loose. So I was really happy.
Well, the show's been able to attract a non-sci-fi audience, right? So do you think that your comic is going to be able to do the same thing in terms of attracting a non-sci-fi audience or even a non-comic book audience?
Well, one of the cool things is, I mean, I'm always up for anything that brings folks who haven't been reading comics back to comics. It's like everybody's a comic book reader in a way. Like everybody has read, at some point in our lives,
At least one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just part of the culture too. It's like the comics are in the papers. Comics are everywhere. Exactly. Like the diagrams on airplanes that teach you how not to die. Those are comics. So it's an ingrained part of how we get information, how we tell stories. But not everybody is reading comic books regularly. But I think to some level where it's kind of like everybody is actually a Trekkie, believe it or not, because everybody knows far more than they care to admit about Star Trek. And in the same kind of way, it's like everybody knows a lot about comics. And I think it's fun to me when I get friends who haven't read comics in a long time back into comics, because they're like, oh yeah, this is what this is fun, and this is the comic, Well, anyway, so I'm always happy to work on a project that can bring people back to comics or bring new people to comics. It was a chance to bring a lot of new people in. The other kind of fun thing, though, is that I realized, reading reviews and stuff online, there were comics readers who had never seen the show but got hooked on the comic book, and then they went and dug up the show, and that was hugely flattering to me. So I was very happy about that too. So.
Awesome. Okay, well, one last question is, talking about comic books, what is your all-time favorite comic or graphic novel?
Good question. I am. All the classic Marvel characters knock me out. I right now I'm writing the Incredible Hulk for Marvel, and I'm writing World War Hulk, which is the big summer Marvel smash fest right now. So, and I've loved the Hulk, for years. I mean, this is one of the characters I loved as a kid. There was there were certain stories in that the old Origins and Son of Origins books that reprinted the old Stan Lee origin stories for most of these Marvel comic characters, and there was this Hulk Submariner fight that was just always it was this great kind of two angry titans clashing underwater, and it had this kind of strange tragic ending, and those kind, and all those Marvel stories had that kind of these flawed characters, with these this kind of whole tragic tone, and this at the same time it's just got this goofy huge energy. I'm a sucker for all that stuff. The non-Marvel book that I read and that I just that knocked me out and continues to knock me out is Nausicaa of the Valley of Wind. I mean, there are tons of books that I love, but this particular book for some reason just kills me. It's a Miyazaki comic book. Miyazaki's best known for Princess Mononoke and Totoro and all of the Spirited Away and all of these great Japanese animated films. But this is his manga. This is his comic book epic, and it is it's just this this insane eco post-disaster epic sort of war between states / eco horror / it's many different things, but it's so rich and so detailed, and it's got this enormously strange milieu, but incredibly humanistic vision. I'm just a huge sucker for that book. So,
well, thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thanks.
All right. Well, all I have to say is more Baltar, more good.
I know, can't complain about that, and we really should start reading on that.
Yeah, the art looks good. It's totally a comic book I'd read.
For sure, and some storyline that we could really catch up on before Razor starts, since it's a few months before that comes out, right?
Yeah, and if Ronald D says it's cool, then this is as close to canon as we're gonna get.
Yeah, seriously.
I think. So I think it's worth it.
For sure.
So beyond this, we've got some Trisha Helfer stuff coming up for you very soon.
Which I've got to say will excite you. She said some great things about Razor, some really cool things about season 4 that I literally got shivers after hearing. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear what she has to say.
Cool. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And over on yourgeeknews.com, I got to interview Malcolm McDowell.
Which is pretty sweet. He is really a cool guy.
Absolutely.
And we have some, I guess, a general feature about Fan Expo that you'll be able to see. We get to check out some of the exhibitors. Matt gets a scar kind of molded on his face. It's really cool. So, yeah, check it out.
Check it out, guys.
Your Geek News.
Okay, well, we'll see you guys soon with Trisha Helfer.